And like I said, we blend it, and we're going to keep blending for the foreseeable future. I talked about price differences. Let me go back to price differences before. Phil Cullum, my classmate from the Naval Academy, and a good friend who's on the OPNAV staff as the Director of Energy and the Environment right now. Phil has been working with MIT Sloan Management School to try to calculate where we think the price of these renewable products will go. And the study that Sloan has produced that said in 2020, 9 years hence, if everything stays according to plan, the price of renewables and the price of petroleum-based fuels will meet. 2020. Now, the price point could be obtained perhaps as early as 2018 with continued incentives from the federal government. So there's some very interesting economic analysis that has been released and was recently spoken about. So the logistics challenges for us are where to store it, where to blend it, where to test it. We ran into a roadblock right off the bat because, you know, at $400 a gallon, the last thing we want to do is blend this in with the capitalized fuel prices that we pay for all the other diesel fuels and jet fuels. So we had to procure it ourselves, and we could not use the Defense Logistics Agency's working capital fund. And a lot of you are familiar with working capital funds, but in this case, the decision was made not to commingle our money for this very important work that we're doing with the broader consumption of fuel. So we bought the product separately. And we're maintaining the tanks that we store it in separately from the larger corpus of sustainment, repair, and modernization funds as well. So we have our own money set aside beyond the funding that I talked about to maintain the fuel tanks. We've just put, in fact, last week we received two 30,000 gallon tanks at Patuxent River to store the hydrotreated jet fuel. And we've also got two 50,000 gallon tanks at Patuxent River that we took out of jet fuel service in order to store the diesel fuel so we can get that tested there. What are we going to do as far as demonstrating the Sail the Green Fleet initiative in 2012? Looks like we're going to use barges up in the Pacific Northwest, and we'll deliver the algae-based fuel, the algae-based diesel fuel, and the camelina-based jet fuel to barges up in the Pacific Northwest where we'll store it, and then we'll deliver it, blend it, and then we'll deliver it to oilers. And that'll be used probably for the RIMPAC exercises, probably the demonstration effort that the Secretary talked about. So that's the plan right now, and we think we have the facilities to do it. We think we have the folks to store it, and right now we think that's going to work really effectively. So here we go, and we're getting close. I mean, we're going to drop this big contract delivery order on the 1st of October, or maybe a little before, if our financial management branch is able to help us. The fact that we have a budget now is going to be a big assist, honestly. Just a couple of closing comments. I just want to restate what you all are here for. The Great Green Fleet, the Alternative Energy Program, all of the things that we're talking about today are examples of the Navy's commitment, the Navy's cultural commitment to demonstrating leading edge technologies to assure that we maintain our status as a global Navy with increased energy security in an increasingly uncertain energy security environment. Make no mistake, we're a great Navy because of our people, but we're a global Navy because of our logistics, and we intend to stay that way for the foreseeable future. And my team's especially proud to be able to provide the global logistics support that our Navy needs to be persistent. And then, in turn, the Navy provides that maritime security which we all need, since we are a maritime nation. So I want to thank you all for allowing me to speak here on Earth Day, or the day before Earth Day, the almost Earth Day. Earth Day is, I think, an important time to reflect on where we're trying to go as a Navy and as a nation and as a community. And I can't think of a better opportunity than being here up in Ventura. So I want to thank you all again. And of course, I'd ask you to keep the deployed men and women, no matter where they are around the world, in your thoughts and prayers as they go in harm's way to protect the freedoms that we all enjoy. Thanks very much.
Admiral Captain Rich Dan, what was the impact of the earthquake to the tanks in Japan?
It's a great question. It's sort of funny, the job that I have in Japan primarily is pumping fuel to the Air Force. So our tank farm in Hachinoi, we have 2 tank farms, one right next to the other. It is an odd lash up, but we have a government-owned, government-operated fuel farm next to a contractor-owned, contractor-operated fuel farm. One pumps to the other. And then they pump 17 miles down 2 4-inch lines to get to Misawa base. And those 4-inch lines in some places are just laying on the ground. It's just the way that it's been for many, many years. And the tsunami washed out one fuel farm pretty significantly. Put about 3 feet of water in there, but the tanks themselves were fine. As the tsunami came ashore, we had about 10 miles of pipe that took a pretty good pounding. Thanks to the Seabees, thank God for the Seabees, because the Seabees came in and they repaired that pipeline, and that pipeline was pressure tested yesterday. Now, there's 3 pump houses on the line. One of the pump houses is totally destroyed. And it'll be some time, I think, before we get that pump house repaired. But we can still pump to Misawa base, but we have to pump at a much slower rate, more like 1,600 gallons an hour. Like I said, it's not a very fast rate at this current slash up. The bright thing is Misawa's got enough fuel right now to last it about 6 months. So. And depending on the consumption rate, if it goes below about 100,000 gallons a day, which was what it saw for a short time, we'll have a year's worth of fuel there. So we're going to be okay at Misawa. The other fuel farms, we had some bangs, but nothing big. Hachinoi is the one where we really took some hits. But everybody else was okay. Good question, thanks.
The other branches, the Air Force and the Army, are they having any similar initiatives?
It's a great question. The question was whether the other services have similar efforts underway. I know I'm on the record, so I'll stay on the record. But here's what I will tell you, and I'll say it on the record, I guess. I would love to. We would all love to see the same affirmation across the Department of Defense.
In a perfect world.
In a perfect world. Yeah, I don't believe. Secretary Mavis, honestly, he is way out in front, and to do that and doing that, if you've ever heard him speak, he's a charismatic, incredible leader who you want to follow. And I'll be honest, I want to follow it. So there is incredible leadership on the part of the Secretary. And for that, I think we should all be very, very happy. But he is alone. I haven't heard the same affirmation from the Secretary of Defense or from the Secretary of the Air Force or the Army. And it's not a criticism, it's just a statement of fact. So, it's a truism that the Navy's out in front. It's exactly where we want to be. Out in front. Yes, sir.
So growing. No, I don't know. Oh, the other room has to hear me too? Oh, wow. Hello. Thanks for your service too. I have a question about the securing these plants and that are going to be used to convert into this fuel. Is this a consistent source or a source that's going to be available just in the United States, or?
It's a great question, and I have a 2-part answer. The first is I think we've chosen the products that we've chosen because we believe they are sustainable in the United States. The rhetorical answer is if we choose to import an alternative fuel, have we really reduced our dependence on foreign petroleum? So I think that's just sort of an affirmation that our goal here is energy security for the United States, energy security for the Navy. Now that doesn't mean we're going to buy fuel here in the U.S. and ship it to the Middle East. That would be not smart. But that does mean that when it comes to producing fuel here in the U.S., if we can produce it here in the U.S. and use it in the U.S., we have reduced our dependence on foreign energy. So I hope that helps. Yeah, great. And like I said, you know, our real requirement is not to displace subsistence crops. Doesn't mean there aren't other ways. Okay. There are other products out there, Jatropha as an example. Okay. Great question. Thank you. Anything else?
Wow. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Hello, this is Doug Crawford, and we're on the deck of the Santa Barbara Yacht Club, the Jewel of the Pacific, and we're real pleased to be here today with the new president of the Santa Barbara Council, the largest Navy league in the world without a deepwater port. And Kevin McTagg, I'd like to invite you to give us some idea of what it meant to you to volunteer and why you did that.
Well, thanks, Doug. I have been a volunteer with the Santa Barbara Navy League now for about three and a half years. My involvement really began, or I became interested actually with the last ship's visit that we've had, the USS Ronald Reagan back in 2008. I was not a volunteer at that time, but I saw what a great organization that was involved in, and I wanted to be part of it. Frankly, it came about when there was an open invitation put out by the Navy League to try and seek sponsors for sailors that were visiting for a meal or to stay over. And my wife and I and a couple other couples got involved and invited some sailors out to dinner, and that's how I became involved.
Okay, excellent. And what do you do for a living, Kevin?
Well, I'm currently serving on several nonprofit boards, including this one. That's pretty much what I do, is a lot of volunteer work at this point. I was a full-time attorney until about 3 years ago, where I started in Washington, D.C., where I went to law school. Coincidentally, when we're talking about the Reagan, at that time my father was the science advisor to President Reagan, and so I did have some involvement in looking at government and volunteerism that takes place with that.
Well, it takes an awful lot of time and a tremendous commitment to be president of one of the most active and labeled an outstanding council of the Navy League of the United States for 6 consecutive years now. Can you tell me some of the things that you're investing most of your time doing now as the new president?
Well, obviously this week, one of the most pressing issues has to deal with what has recently taken place in Japan. As many folks have probably seen, one of the first ships on site as far as responding to this has been the USS Ronald Reagan. Recently I had the opportunity to visit with the commanders, the command on that ship, and meet them and the crew as they were just preparing for the deployment. Our concern right now is to reach out to the crew and the command and find out what it is that we can do. The Santa Barbara Navy League has adopted the USS Ronald Reagan. It is our ship, and we look to see what we can do to support and serve the command and crew, especially in the situation right now with what they're dealing with.
And can you tell us a little bit about the communication that you have with the ship while it is deployed, whether it's going into a battle zone or serving humanitarian purpose as it is today?
Well, it actually works on two fronts. We do communicate directly with the ship through their PAO in a request to them to see what it is, anything that the Santa Barbara Navy League can do, or specifically what it is that we can do. We're always looking to support them. But we also do receive communications from the families because the crew members and the command do communicate with their families, and they in turn do communicate with us, which I think is really interesting because it's the just genuine discussion that we hear from them from their spouses as to what the real concerns are, and that's really what we're looking for. What is it we can do on a personal level to support these folks? And we recently received a communication 2 days ago with regards to comforting that they are on top of the situation, that they're very aware as to what the health risk factors are, but also very uplifting hearing about how the crew on board is just ready to get involved, how they really want to participate, and how they think that for several of them, this being one of their first deployments, how this is one of the most important things that they've done for the Navy and for the United States.
And in their lives, most probably. Yes. Can you imagine being there? And I know there were 17 sailors came back, had to be scrubbed down, had radiation on them from a helicopter that had flown off. And one of the things that happens that the Navy League does to support the men and women as they're serving is that we help honor them on a daily basis. And I'd like you to tell us a little bit about the trip that you had 6 weeks ago where you delivered some coins to them. And, well, you know, if you would, give us your general impression of what your distinguished visitor trip that you got to lead with a number of America's top corporate executives and local community leaders, what that meant to you, and what is it that the crew of the USS Ronald Reagan knows about Santa Barbara and how Santa Barbara cares for them.
Well, the Distinguished Visitor trip is an opportunity that the Navy provides to allow individuals to come on board and basically see how the ship operates on a regular operational basis. It's not just sitting in the harbor at rest, it's what they're doing every day. And really what it does is create goodwill ambassadors, because I think anybody who has ever been on a Navy ship in operation is instantly I wouldn't say transformed, but just it instantly generates in you the pride that you have in the men and women of the Navy. One thing that is always striking is how young these individuals are. We were up on the bridge, and the person handling the bridge, as far as steering this $1 billion incredible piece of machinery, was a 19-year-old woman from Arizona. Absolutely amazing. But one of the two things that we try to do on a daily basis, at least, is to provide what we call the ship's coins. Excuse me, what's called challenge coins. Santa Barbara Navy League has its own challenge coin, where it's presented each day as part of the Sailor of the Day award to the sailor of that day. Also, they have the Sailor of the Week, Sailor of the Quarter, and Sailor of the Year. But another thing that we do through the Santa Barbara Navy League is provide scholarships. And I was, because it was the beginning of the deployment, I was honored to be able to present 6 scholarships to 6 of the crew for furtherance of their education in line with their responsibilities. And with the honor of being there to present that was both myself, the captain of the ship, the admiral, as well as Governor Rick Perry of the state of Texas. And it was quite an honor on my part to be able to present those on behalf of the Santa Barbara Navy League to these hard-working men and women of the Navy.
I think membership in the Navy League has its benefits, not only that we get to give without any regard for what we get back, but just to give to those fine men and women who wear the cloth of our nation. But also the opportunity to be able to go aboard and meet them, whether it's on what's called a distinguished visitor trip, or whether it's the family Tiger Cruise that comes back from Hawaii, or perhaps maybe even just hosting them in your homes, which seems to have the longest lasting benefit of getting to know those young men and women. Can you tell me about some of the other activities of the Navy League? What's coming up in 2011 for the Santa Barbara Council that you're leading that you might want to have the public know about? And we ask you to call in or send an email, and we're happy to answer any questions. We'd love to have you volunteer, donate, and join. But if you have questions and you want to just contribute either your information that you have about people that you know that have served, or maybe have your grandfather or your father or your brother memorialized by talking with us on Navy League TV, get in touch with us so that we can do that for you. But Kevin, what's coming up in 2011 for the Santa Barbara Council of the Navy League of the United States?
Well, there are a couple things. Some are short-term and some are long-term. The short-term is on April 28th here at the Yacht Club, we're having what we call the Topside Thursday. One time each quarter, we have a meeting or a gathering, I should say, for all the members, and it'll be here at the Yacht Club at I think 5:30 to 7 o'clock. It's a chance for everybody to get together and for us to kind of communicate in a more personal way as to other issues, things that are coming up, what the status is with regards to our adopted units, our adopted ships, and basically just a get-together for the members.
This is a great location, and the idea that we would also perhaps have some people in uniform here is another reason that our members come, and they bring friends and new members. So if you're interested in doing that, joining us on that, also please call the Santa Barbara Navy League at 805-879-1775, and we'll try to accommodate your attendance at that. Can you tell me anything about PCU California?
That's one of the long terms. That is a very long-term project, but it's one that is beginning right now, and it's very exciting because as it's just getting into its momentum now, we're getting more and more people that are wanting to be involved and just have a general interest in it. The PCU California is our adoption of the submarine. It's currently called the PCU California, which is a Virginia-class nuclear-powered submarine that has recently been christened. And the Santa Barbara Navy League is the first council that has adopted the PCU California. And adoption itself means that we are taking on the responsibility of helping to outfit and support to support the boat itself. Maybe it means a small discussion as to what outfitting it means. When a ship or a boat is christened or commissioned, it's essentially bare bones. It's operational, but doesn't really have any of the creature comforts that we would like to provide to support the crew. And we're taking on that responsibility to help outfit that ship and continue to support its crew throughout its active duty.
So that gives us an opportunity to ask you if you've ever thought about supporting a nuclear submarine named after the great state of California in some way. Certainly having the beautiful place that we have call home in Santa Barbara and Ventura County and Port Hueneme and down in that area, Naval Base Ventura County. Certainly we have the resources to be able to host a ship like that, and hopefully someday we will. But in the meantime, we need your votes of support, your membership, and your volunteerism to be able to help support that. I also understand that we're going to have a party of the year at the Coral Casino sometime this year too. Can you talk to me about what's happening in September?
Absolutely. September 9th, 2011 at the Coral Casino, we will be having our annual gala or get-together. We are currently in discussions right now with specific units as far as who it is that will be honoring this time around or this year, and who it is that will be having come to speak to the Navy League. But it is our annual gala where we seek to gather as many folks from the community as we can together as our one broad event to discuss with the community what our mission is to support and serve those in the naval-based services, and we're looking forward to it very much. I think it's going to be a fantastic event this year.
Well, I'm really excited about it. I've been with the Santa Barbara Navy League since 2002, and never have we talked about helping to hold a gala here at the Coral Casino, the historic Coral Casino, where we're only going to be able to have about 360 people in attendance. You know, when we have a ship visit, we generally work to try to get 1,500 people aboard an aircraft carrier and several hundred aboard other ships when they're coming. But this event, which will have an array of people. We're partnering with the USO, so we expect great entertainment. We're going to be honoring organizations that serve our men and women, so that we're going to be here to help support organizations like the Wounded Warriors, like people, families that have lost their loved ones, to be able to honor them and to have our community come together to be able to tell them how much we appreciate all that they've done for our nation. And remember that the Navy League is really the largest organization in the world that supports that are civilians in support of active duty servicemen and women and their families. So this gala will provide members of the Navy League and citizens here in Santa Barbara a special chance to say thank you.
Well, I think one of the things that maybe folks have been reading in the newspapers recently is there's a discussion about a creation of a disjoint or between regular civilian folks and those people that are in the military. I don't tend to subscribe to that theory, and I think that this gala is one way to demonstrate that there is not a disconnect, that there is a broad base of support by the men and women of the United States and this community in specific, actually, to support those who support us every day.
Well, you've done a wonderful job in the couple of months that you've been leading our council, and one of the things that impresses me the most is sitting at a board meeting and seeing the array of personalities, business leaders, community leaders, a couple of retired military leaders that serve on this board of directors and make all of these kind of events possible, and of course oversight of a large budget that's required in order to support right now 10 different units deployed in harm's way, and one of them is down at Naval Base Ventura County, the NMCB-3s. They're deployed right now. We've got the air wing of the USS Ronald Reagan. It's deployed. We've got the USS Ronald Reagan. We've got the USS Stockdale. It is deployed. And we've got Vandenberg Air Force Base, and I think the operations that go on there are ever present to us here in this community. Naval Base Ventura County, of course, we sit between two of the most significant safety. When we think about protecting our nation from missiles and so forth coming in from other places, we're sitting here between Naval Base Ventura County and Vandenberg. So it is on all services, not just naval, that we look to serve and support. And so we ask for your activity, if you will, if you know of units that are worthy of support here in the Santa Barbara Council, to call us at 879-1775 or to go to SantaBarbaraNavyLeague.org and look there and see what we do. But get involved. I mean, this is a great community. And are there other things that in your mind, Kevin, that you'd like to invite people to do or give them information about?
Well, I think as far as information goes, I think one of the biggest misconceptions about the Navy League is that you have to have had some type of military experience or family involved in military experience. I don't have any. I think on the board, probably the vast majority of the board members don't have any specific military experience themselves. It is simply not required, and I think for me, it is one way just to have been involved in some manner, and I appreciate the fact that the Santa Barbara Navy League exists for me to be able to do that. And I think that anybody in the community should feel encouraged to participate in any manner. Again, it does not require any type of military experience, background, or specific knowledge.
The other thing that I like about the Navy League is that it is a civilian organization where civilians are honoring those that serve, and it's not political. We are not supported by any government funding. We are solely a 501c3 that are here to be a force for good in the world in supporting those men and women that serve in harm's way. So if you have somebody that in your family that you're especially proud of and you'd like to honor them in some way, certainly joining the Navy League and participating as a volunteer, a donor, and or as a member is one of the ways you can do that. And we have Navy League TV, and we'd like to hear their story. So we invite you to attend our events, go online, watch us on YouTube. Just type in Santa Barbara Navy League video and you'll see over 60 shows. And so you'll see what we do. And we invite you to please think about those men and women and how you might be able to help them by helping us.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us. And again, thank you for all you're doing as a civilian in support of the men and women who serve in our nation's armed forces.
It's an honor.
Thank you.